The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. And, when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example. They are left undisturbed for 3 days.
There's power in the knowledge that you have. It's power driven towards your success in life, to overcome any obstacle that may be before you, to acknowledge with knowledge. You literally just talk yourself into being who you see in your subconscious mind. You've brought that to the forefront to acknowledge with knowledge.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's your girl Kira Savvy here. Savvy Kira on Instagram and Facebook. And this is, you already know, literally, Just Talk Radio. To acknowledge with knowledge. We are opening up season 2 on Mind of the Storm podcast platform on Facebook. And I'm so thankful to Mike hooking us up in the studio. Man, we got an excellent start for y'all. And I just like to say, at the beginning of my show, literally Just Talk Radio, I'm rounding up on 2 years now with literally Just Talk Radio. And these last 2 years have been quite a journey. It's been super phenomenal. And being able to be here in front of a live audience just really speaks to that. In the beginning of the show, it was in the middle of the pandemic. And I really thought about everything that was transpiring around us, from social injustices amid the pandemic, job loss, the decline of the economy, and how that really affected us and affected our lives. So, coming up on 2 years later, I'm thinking about all of that in once and how economic opportunities should be more available for all of us. Which leads me to my topic for tonight: economic opportunities for the formerly incarcerated. And my guest, my very first guest that I'm excited to have, Mr. The Remarkable D. Murphy Hall, from Wilmington, Delaware. This gentleman is an activist. He does everything from prison reform to his youth boxing program as a professional boxer. And my favorite sport, by the way, teaching the youth discipline through boxing. I'm telling you, we need more people like him in our communities and with us to show us a better way. What's going on, D? Welcome to the show.
I'm thankful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Kira. I appreciate your support, your encouragement, and your beautiful smile. I'm in Atlanta right now, and
Right.
I'm doing everything that it is that I can to make sure I'm coming in clear. My technology isn't the best. I'm on my phone right now using hotspot on my laptop, and my camera is not all that. But I'm here, and I'm happy that you decided to invite me to do your first show with you.
Right. And I appreciate you, man. And thank you, everybody that's tuning in right now. So, Devon, I know that you're like heavily involved in the community and community advocacy. And I really think it's important for us to highlight you and highlight the work that you're doing, especially when it comes to the formerly incarcerated. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I like to share stories. So, at the top of 2020, at the beginning of the new year, my oldest brother was involved in the Parchman State Penitentiary riots. And in that time, it really highlighted for me what I needed to be paying attention to in regard to his life, in regard to his well being. And after that time, I thought about, well, what will he have to restart his life when he comes home owning a criminal record? Being seen or being called a ex felon, when we're even using the wrong language these days to address people who have served time, and they should be called formerly incarcerated people, because at the end of the day, what they really are people, everyday people like you and me, people who are looking to restart their lives and re-enter society. And I definitely feel like we need to give them more of a chance to do so. So, D, being an impacted person and experiencing incarceration, what has been your stance in promoting what's known as Decarcerate America in your community?
Very multifaceted. Definitely a passionate one. I'm a passionate person since I'm an artist and an activist. That comes across in our efforts on different mediums. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram. As far as in person goes, we started off protesting out at Gander Hill, or Howard R. Young, as it's commonly referred to, DOC. In person, while I was out there protesting, I always talked about my personal experience. I always talked about on the bullhorn when I was locked up and I was in the hole, and I had a feeling that was exposed at the root. I had a tooth. I needed dental work done. And, there's a lot of guys in there that are locked up that have health problems, that have dental problems, and
Hmm.
they don't get the attention that they deserve, that they need. And I remember when I was in there, I had to wait. I put in grievance after grievance slip, and I was in so much pain I couldn't eat anything. When they finally sent me down there was a guy that was working, the dentist that the prison had was shaking. He was an elderly man, and he was shaking, and he was shaking so bad.
Hmm.
Reminded me of my pop up. My pop up had Parkinson's. I don't know if this man had Parkinson's or not, but he was shaking so bad that he needed help. I'm being interviewed right now, y'all. Hey, yeah, I'm being interviewed right now. I'm talking about Pop Pop. If y'all can hear me, that's my cousin. But my cousin came down from Atlanta. She's actually from Chester, like you, Kira. But
Oh, okay. Hey, cousin, how you doing?
she went back in. But
Okay.
Pop Pop's son Hall, he passed away back 2001,
Oh,
and
my condolences.
with him and him having Parkinson and me knowing what Parkinson looks like, I know that this dentist that the prison had Parkinson's. He was shaking so bad that he couldn't even put on his own gloves. He was shaking so bad that he had to have his assistant, his dental assistant, put on his gloves for him. So I was in so much pain that
Man.
I was ready to allow this man shaking like he was shaking to still operate, still take this tooth out of my mouth.
Mm.
I had this feeling in it until they put the waiver in front of me that said that I could have extreme bleeding, I could have bone fracture, I could have excessive bleeding, bone fracture, and they said infection.
Jeez.
All those boxes I had to check and say that I'm okay with that. That's going to be all right if that happens to me. So I
Mm.
told the guys when I was out there, because they could hear us inside. When I was on the bullhorn, I told them, don't sign any waivers. I didn't tell nobody not to take the vaccine. I didn't know what the vaccine was at that point. I wasn't
Mm.
vaccinated myself at that point, but I didn't tell them back in 2020 not to. So the opportunities that we have to share our story, to try to help somebody else do right, to do
Mhm.
better, to survive, we have to take advantage of. And when we're welcome to the table to advocate or to be a decision maker,
Right.
we have the same thing. We have to accept that place, and we have to make sure that we don't forget our lived experiences. We have to make sure that we don't forget the people that are experiencing what it is that we went through. We have to make sure that we remember to always do everything that it is that we can to safeguard our community from having to experience what it is that we might have been through, because nobody has to go through that if we don't allow for that to happen. And when we're in those systems, when we're in those places and we can actually affect change, we have to make sure that we do just that, and make sure that people don't have situations where they're at risk, where they could be hurt, where their bones could be fractured, where they could have excessive bleeding.
Right. And you know what? I think that's traumatic enough in itself. Just enduring that experience and then people not really knowing or having, the education behind what they're even signing or even knowing what they're going to sign off on to be done to them and to their own bodies. And I'm glad that you was there in that position to be able to tell people not to. So, I really want to know, like, how does the front end trauma, being on the forefront of those things, being incarcerated and fighting for the formerly incarcerated, how does that destroy families and how does that prevent us from fighting and standing for our communities the way we really should?
So an accident causes catastrophic injury to everyone in the vehicles involved, and a lot of times to the environment where the accident takes place. Many times, trauma is not something that we see. Many times it's mental. It's something that affects your mind. But everybody in that vehicle that was in that accident experiences some sort of trauma: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, fear, you scared, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in the back of the car or the bus or whatever it is, the back of the vehicle, you experience what it is that they experience in the front. When I'm talking about the front, you you could be a parent and you could do the wrong thing.
Mm.
The sins of the father, the sins of the mother are passed along to the generation that comes after them. So if they're in the vehicle, they're being carried too, and you get into an accident or you end up in the wrong place, you do the wrong thing, you have to not only pay those consequences yourself, but your children coming behind you got to pay those same prices that you got to pay. I wrote a lot about my personal story in my book, Keep Up the Good Fight. It's on keepupthegoodfight.org. It's available to the public. Everybody can read more about my story. There's a lot of different things that have happened to me that I do the best that I can to just try to uh, explain to the best of my ability. We don't got time to go through everything, but it is all in Keep Up the Good Fight. And before I wrote Keep Up the Good Fight, I wrote the 6 o'clock diet. The 6 o'clock diet. I used to weigh 300 pounds. We talk about trauma, we talk about things that people have been through,
Mm.
and want people to be healthy, wanting to use your own experience to try to help other people. That book, because of the trauma that I was experiencing when I first self-published it back in 2012, I never really promoted it like I needed to. That's why I said that I had to make sure I let people know about that book, because that book could have saved somebody's life in these
Right.
past 10 years. 2012 to 2022, I could have helped somebody that got gastric bypass surgery and didn't need to get it. I
Mm.
could have helped somebody that ended up on the operating table getting that work done. And you don't need to have those invasive surgeries. You don't need to do all that stuff when it comes to eating right. Sometimes it's just stopping, just putting the fork down. Yesterday, I'm eating dinner with my mom, my grandma. My mom reminded me, I told my mom I'm full, stop
Oh, mama gonna
eating. If you're full, stop eating,
she
That's the
gonna
simple
feed you
thing. Stop eating late at night. 6 o'clock diet, that's what it's about. The simple things. But at the same time, it's more than just that.
right.
It's six different variations of the 6 o'clock diet. It ain't just stopping and eating. But yeah, we gotta do the best that we can to help other people and we do everything that it is in our power to do that. And we use different avenues, we use different platforms, we use different books to do it. We talk. I love this platform. We can talk, but yeah, 6 o'clock diet that's available, and keepupthegoodfight.org is where you get keep up the good fight.
Nice. And you know what? I'm gonna make sure you drop those links to me because they'll be on the Talk Heavy TV page, also on my own page at Savvy Kira. But I think that's phenomenal. Yo, D, I did not know that you weighed 300 pounds. Like that's
300. I
man.
was a big boy. Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I'm
I
telling
was
you,
a big boy.
looking at you now, you would never tell. Like you would never tell a difference. So
I
people,
went I went I went from 300 to welterweight,
yeah,
160, 150.
she
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of
that's
work, a lot
a
of
whole
discipline.
other person. Word. So
Yeah, I thank God.
no doubt. A lot of work and a
Every
lot
day.
and sometimes you know what that act of selflessness and putting yourself in position to be selfless like is really what it takes, and you're taking all of your experiences to be able to help other people, you know. And it makes me really think about where our government stands and where our local legislators stand. When we're talking about formerly incarcerated people, we're talking about people that you expect to re-enter society and become a part
Y'all
of
leaving?
society that
Where
they were
Tada at?
part of
Where
before.
Tada?
You know? So, in your opinion, how do you
How was
think
that food? Come here.
how do you think our government and local legislators can even nonprofits provide economic opportunities for formerly incarcerated people?
I gotta. We gonna y'all. We gonna see y'all before we leave, right? Y'all, we y'all leave. Oh, morning. Y'all leaving? Oh man.
You hear
Uh,
me?
hold on. Let me. I gotta. Y'all do what y'all doing.
So he getting his family situation together right now. What I really wanted to highlight is our government and our local legislators and our officials who tell, formerly incarcerated people to come and re-enter our society and tell them to be productive, tell them to find jobs, tell them to maybe even go back to school and get an education. I was reading on the DOC website an article from PADOC, Department of Corrections, and in that article, they were basically saying how 60% of that population is expected.
He's back.
So why have pathways to success for that population of people re-entering society when you only expect them to come back? AD, you with me?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Kira.
It's all good, man. Look, I already know how it is when you with your family. You want to kick back. So listen, I appreciate your time. But where y'all going?
That's not true. I got to be honest. My family is definitely on the mend.
Right.
And my cousin, I love my cousin, and it's been a long time since I've seen her.
Yo,
And
that's dope.
her friend just lost her son, her
Mm.
23-year-old son, to gun violence recently.
Mm.
And we have to do what we can to be supportive and we got to be available to everybody, no matter what it is that we doing. We got to be available to everybody, and we
Yeah.
can't not be like, I'm gonna pray about everything. We always say, oh, we gonna pray. We praying for you. We sorry for you loss. We care. We have to really be there for people,
No doubt. And you know what? It's a part of being there and really
no
showing.
matter what.
Yeah, no matter what, and showing that strength and showing that family unit that really that keeps us together. It's our glue. And my condolences, man, to you and your family. Like,
They're both from Chester. They both from Chester. I came down here 2 days ago. They
mhm.
came down here last night, and they leaving tomorrow. So I didn't even know. I wanted to find that all out. They came to my mom's house just to visit and all that, and
Yeah.
so I wanted to make sure I talked to them before they leave.
And you
But
know, you never know where you're going to be and why you need to be there. You know, this is why it's so important for us to be able to stick together, to be able to connect to each other so we can at least attempt to put in the mind of especially our young people to stop these things from happening. I was telling you the conversation that we was having the other day about my brother who is on life support right now. You feel me? Not coming back because of gun violence, because he decided to put himself in that position, and we can't. It's hard for us to deal with it, you know. And he's a twin, and his twin brother is incarcerated. You know, what is his life going to look like when he comes home? You know, how is he going to be able to restart his life and make something better for his generation? I got six nieces and nephews from that one brother. You know what I'm saying? Just being
hmm
able to look at them and look at his son, look at his junior, look at his daughters and say, what can we do? What can we do for our babies? Like, what can we do for our future to ensure that we don't have to put ourselves in position to have to fight for them even after the fact, you know? Like, how can
hmm
we prevent that from happening, you know? And I was saying that, and I was asking you really, like, how can our government, our local legislators, the work that they're not doing, nonprofit agencies, provide more economic opportunities for those underrepresented, for the formerly incarcerated? Because it's one of the things that should be highlighted, that should be on the forefront. You should be able to go to your local social services office, human services office, and find pamphlets right in front of you. That's not always the case. You should even be
right,
able to talk to somebody. That's not always the case. We don't even
right.
have a way to get these resources to the communities when they become available. So I know you did an education on voters' rights, on registering to vote. My question is, how can we provide more of that education to our communities? How can we put the pressure on our local legislators and our government to make sure that our communities and the communities that they represent get the resources that they need?
By being consistent, and always recognizing your own power, never doubting yourself and what it is that you can do, believing in just the power that you possess. Now, you can believe that you can be a success, or you can believe that you can fail at whatever it is that you're doing. But if you have what they call high self efficacy, if you believe in your skills, your performance, your thinking, your training, what it is that you've educated yourself, or what it is that you've been educated to do, you're going to have high self efficacy, and you're going to do everything in your power to organize and hopefully teach other people to have that same belief in themselves that you have. And you guys can all believe in each other and do what it is that you need to do for your community. Our community has low self efficacy. Our community has low self esteem. Our community a lot of times has low success rate when it comes to what it is that we're trying to do. We're a little bit off where we thought that we were going to be when it came to the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that understanding, timing, those things are important. When we get them together, when we get our training together, and we practice success, because proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Mm.
If you have trained to be successful, you're going to be successful. You're going to be a winner.
Right.
There's certain things that are gonna happen. You
Right.
might lose, but you can't ever put yourself all the way up here when you win and just continue to always think that that's where you're gonna be. And when
Mhm.
you lose, you're all the way down here. Be even. Be even. You're talking about government structures. You're talking about offices. People in power should be impacted. They should be people that have had some losses, people that have been here, people that know what being broke is like, people that know what losing a job is like. They know what evictions like. They know what growing up without food in their stomach. Maybe they've had those experiences. A lot of times, it's not those people. It's not impacted people that are in positions of power to say this shouldn't be this way. This is not acceptable. So it's up to us, being those people, to organize. We all have First Amendment rights in this country. Every son and daughter of this nation now has a First Amendment right to speak, to assemble, to organize, protest, to petition. You wrote a couple petitions about your brother, right? Because of what happened to you, because you knew what was going on, right?
Right. Right. And putting myself in that position to do so. Just I'm a everyday, ordinary woman. But I care enough about my loved one. I care enough about my family to be able to put myself in that position and not just seeing that my family was affected, but all the people around him who didn't have, family to even fight for them or to stand up for them. Putting myself in that
Yo,
position to say,
I
this is what needs
understand.
to be done.
Let's get back to number three.
Well, we actually on number
I
six.
like that laugh. I
Well,
like that.
listen, I want to hear more about, and I know it's off subject, but I want to hear more about the gloves program that you have in Wilmington with the youth. What exactly do you do with the youth? What do you teach them through your professional boxing career?
Fight hate with gloves more so is instruction that is hopefully an outlet for frustration. A lot of times when I'm holding on to the mitts, when I got the mitts on my hands and I put gloves on a young person in front of me, I feel a lot of pain. I feel a lot of pain from those gloves into my mitts. So hopefully I feel like it's an outlet for frustration, if nothing else. They get some anger out. The goal is to teach, to instruct them on how to defend themselves, of course.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't even know how to throw a punch. They don't know how to put their hands up like they supposed to. They don't know how to move their head. They don't
Mm,
know how to stand on an angle. They don't know how to actually fight.
right,
But it's not all about just violence, inflicting violence. We want to find out, why is it that you want to box, if you want to box.
right.
And then we can help you to get registered as an amateur boxer with USA Boxing. We can show you to where it is that you need to go to train to compete, if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's an introduction to the sweet science, the greatest sport ever, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. But
Right.
let's get back to number three.
But you know
Can we
what?
get to number three?
That's
Because
definitely.
I took your questions and I answered them, and I want to get to number three so I can actually answer that question.
Well, you know what? We got a little bit caught up in the conversation. We got distracted, but you know what? That's when we talk heavy. You feel me? Sometimes it's not always in alignment in that structure, but it's definitely worth saying and it need to be said. So number three, Mr. D. Marquis Hall. How do we ensure people in our communities are always treated as people, no matter the circumstances?
So in amateur boxing, I'm gonna go a little bit off the answer. We get 3 rounds when we first start off. If your son, your daughter decided to become an amateur boxer, girls and boys can fight. She would be fighting 3 2-minute rounds at the beginning. So three is an important number to me. That's why I'm stuck on it. But how we ensure people in our communities are always treated as people, I have a question for you. No matter the circumstances, you said, are we talking about people being treated as people by other people, or are we talking about people being treated as people by systems that people are supposed to be in control of?
Well, you know what? I think you can answer both of those because if we expect to be treated a certain way, just to answer your question, then we got to learn how to treat each other the way we want to be treated. We got to learn how to treat each other the way we want these systems to treat us. If they see us constantly tearing each other down and tearing our communities down and tearing down the work that we're putting into our communities, how do we expect to get, number one, the respect, and number two, the treatment that we know we so justly deserve? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. It's the golden rule. You don't want to be slighted. You don't want to be neglected. You definitely don't want to be oppressed. You definitely don't want to be brutalized. You don't want to be treated like less than a person. You don't want to be treated like trash. You don't want to be recycled or repurposed, even. But we must demand that the people that are being helped, that are being corrected, that are being put in these places where they're supposed to be treated as people, should be treated as people, not
Mm-hmm.
criminals, not trash, not thrown away. Everybody deserves a second chance, and we're used to hearing that. But everybody deserves to be repurposed. Really, everybody deserves to be turned into something better than they were before. They
Right.
need to learn different skills. They need to learn what they call soft skills a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Direction. When we're directed and we're shown which way to go, we end up where it is that we need to be. When we end up off course, a lot of times it's a lot harder, it takes a lot longer to get right back to where it is that we should have been. Some
Right.
people never make it back to where it is that they should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the difference. When you're born in the suburbs maybe and you go to a private school and you have a parent that gives you an education, and maybe a house, and maybe you meet who it is that you're supposed to meet early. You end up in a better place. You don't make those mistakes maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or you end up with those things offered to you and you go the wrong direction. Maybe you start using drugs. Maybe you end up locked up, DUI or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You end up in jail. So you got to get back to where it is that you were before somehow.
Right.
And it takes you a little bit longer to get to where it is that we all want to be, to get to that success, to have that family, to have that house, to have those children that you're able to give everything that you were given. It
Mm-hmm.
takes time, but that definitely that definitely is something that all communities can identify with, just being where it is that we need to be, treating each other with respect. As I said earlier, the First Amendment gives these rights to the First Amendment is speech,
Mm-hmm.
petition, religion, assembly, protest. That's afforded to everybody, every son and daughter of this nation
Right.
has that same right available to us. And that doesn't matter what your education level is. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what your class is, your income status. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter where it is that you come from. It doesn't matter your color, your creed. And I thank God for being able to do everything that we should be able to do. And if we can't do it, we have to fight and demand what it is that we must. That's what America's all about.
Right. Land of the free and home of the
We
brave.
work together. We work together, arm in arm, hand
Right.
in hand, fist
Right.
in fist.
And I think
We fight.
we need to make sure that we promote more of that. You know, we also need to tell people in our communities that there are some amongst us who will provide you what you need to get to the next step, you know? And I really want to speak to going through those experiences and having those experiences. Sometimes you have a major setback for a major come up. The
Right.
experiences that you've had and the things that you've endured in your life, whether you want to see it or not. The hardest thing for people to understand is everything happens for a reason. I
Right.
think it's been one of those things in my life that I even had a hard time understanding until I came to a conformed conclusion that it does happen for a reason. I may not understand the reason in the moment, and whether it be detrimental to what I'm doing, whether it be hard in that moment, it's for a reason. The question is, what are you going to do to come back from it? We got to be
That's
able to
right.
do the hard work and to do what's hard. And a lot of times we can't do that because we don't know even just where to start. So that leads to this final question, and that's the importance of restoring lives and resilience training. What does that actually mean for you, resilience training?
Oh wow. That's an awesome question. For me, for me it's like an actual thing. It's a
Mhm,
call. It's a phone call that I make on Wednesdays to be a part of this training with Stanley H. Green. Stanley H. Green bought this whole platform, this whole idea
mm,
from the power. It's power thinking.
mhm,
And University of Pennsylvania psychology head back in the day, Martin Seligman, had this term that he used, that he coined, and I guess that Stanley H. Green, I believe, purchased, called learned helplessness.
yeah, you was telling me about that.
Learned helplessness.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What you showed, what you showed at the beginning of what were those bugs in that jar at
They
the
were
beginning of this
fleas.
video?
They were,
Fleas.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very, very poignant. So
Mm-hmm.
fleas in a jar. They did a experiment that the fleas can. The experiment that Martin Seligman did was with dogs, actually, not the fleas
Hmm.
on the dog, but with dogs. And the dogs that could get out of the cage, I'm looking at a fence right now with a door. I think all fences have doors. Gates are without doors. Fences are with doors. But I'm looking at this fence. If I opened it up, Peppy here that's running around, a little what kind of dog is Peppy? He's not a Yorkie, he's something else. But
Hmm.
if he wanted to, he could run out of that fence.
Right.
Not to say that he's helpless, because he's well taken care of. He's not helpless. But most dogs aren't going to run out of a fence. They're not going to run out if they're here. Even a dog in a cage that doesn't have a whole lot of room, they're not going to try to run out of the fence. But it's all about just thinking that you can.
Right.
Now, if you can't even imagine winning, that's
Mm,
why the Obama presidency was so amazing, because they had hope. A black man was never supposed to be elected president. In 2008, when Obama won, I was in jail. I
yeah.
never thought that a black man was going to be elected president. That would have been the first election that I could have voted in. But if you don't have hope that you can achieve something, you don't believe that it can happen. If you get out of jail and you got all these barriers, you got to check that box now. You can't live at this place. You can't do that. You can't get this job. You can't get approved for this loan. You talk about economic opportunities and business opportunities. There's grants and things like that that would be awarded to some folks, but they might not be awarded to you. All these different barriers that exist, these different rules that are made to a lot of times keep folks that look like us, that have been through what it is that we've been through, to keep us from having everything that is made available, that a lot of times is supposed to be for folks in the position that we're in. Those things aren't available. I know that every one of the obstacles that exist, these barriers, we have to do everything that it is that we can, whether that be run, whether that be just vote, whether that be just make noise about, to organize. We have to do everything that it is that we can. And it starts with belief. We have to believe that we can. If we don't believe that we can, this is a long roundabout way of saying that we won't do it. We won't be able to do anything that it is in our power because
Mm-hmm.
we don't believe that it's in our power. But when we believe that we have the power to do just as we say and just as we see, that gate opening up. Because imagine, I don't know if you've seen those videos fighters put out. Like there's two dogs on each side of the gate, and they barking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they open up the gate, they just look at each other. They don't go and actually fight each other.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
learn helplessness. Martin Seligman, the dogs, they didn't even try to get out of the cage. They was conditioned to believe that they can't get out of the cage. They can't get from behind the fence.
right.
So they didn't even need to close the gate on them anymore. The gate. I know
Yeah.
that Carter G. Woodson, who started the Black History Month, Carter G. Woodson started Black History Month as a week. He wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. And in that book, he talked about how a person who's made to believe that he's second class or made to believe that he's less than that, he'll not only find a way to get to a back door instead of going through the front door, he'll create a back door when he believes that he doesn't deserve to go through the front door.
Right.
So that's all. That's what learned helplessness is all about. For me, I see it a whole lot differently because I've experienced different things than most folks that are on those calls. But we uh we take what it is that we learn. You know, I wouldn't have ever came to boxing if I didn't lose my uncle. I wouldn't have felt so good when I hit the heavy bag and got the frustration out. My uncle, when he passed, that's when I started like really going hard with boxing. I wouldn't have ever discovered the church if it wasn't for boxing because my first boxing coach, Ron Horn, was the one that told me to go to church. I was dealing with a lot and God, prayer, everything that it is that we can work out with
Mm.
the spirit, truth and love and peace and kindness. That was needed. So from the church, I went to Leg Hall, Legislative Hall. It wasn't until I went to Mother African Church and Rachel Livingston was working with Delaware Repeal. It wasn't until she got me going down to church, protesting with her for people to never have to worry about being executed again in the state of Delaware. Because in Delaware, just like everywhere else in this nation, it's mostly black people that end up being convicted wrongly sometimes,
Right.
all the time if you're talking to me, for murder. Some people don't. It's a crapshoot. You imagine being in that position. You didn't do what it is that you're being convicted of, what it is that they're saying that you did,
Mm-hmm.
and you're facing the death penalty.
Man.
Especially when you talk about the church, the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." It doesn't say anybody but the state shall not kill. It says, "Thou shalt not kill." Nobody's
Right.
supposed to be killing anybody.
That
We
part.
should be against that.
You know what? And it's so crazy how your story is absolutely amazing. Just even from the church you went to Legislative Hall and your fight there and continuing to educate yourself to promote that and be there for your community. So, in enduring freedom in our lives through education, the importance there. How can we educate one another just to get to the resources that we need or even get the lives that we're looking to have? I'm not saying all of us have to go to a 4-year university. I'm not saying all of us need to have a science or an associate in communications. There are so many different ways for us to educate one another to have the lives that we know we need despite our past, despite our history. We do deserve second chances. Everybody deserves a second chance. How do you feel we can really use education to help our communities?
Education is key. Education is the key to a brighter future, and a lot of times when we have that education, we don't end up in the situations that we don't need to be in. Um, a lot of folks, when they first start off with school, that you're learning how to read, everybody, and if you never even learn to read, you won't be able to learn. You'll be in a you'll never be able to advance. So I know at my church in Mother African, they've got the Freedom School, and all throughout the nation, there are these freedom schools where they focus on making sure that our community is able to read and able to advance. Uh, we kind of went off course because I was answering questions that you didn't even ask. I was talking about things that I didn't even need to be talking about. But I know that you wanted to ask me how government agencies, our local legislators, and nonprofits provide more economic opportunities for formerly incarcerated people.
Right.
And I wanted to say impacted people being involved in decision making and planning when folks who have been neglected and oppressed are given an opportunity to voice their opinions, we will have change. We
Mm.
must demand that what is right be done. We have to participate. That is why those people who have been branded as felon, knowing that we have this right now restored, we have this right returned to vote. And not only to vote, if you can vote, you can run. See, my shirt says just run. If you can
Right.
vote, you can run for office. That's in Delaware. State by state, laws are different. But in Delaware, we have the right to take control of this government that's supposed to be for us. We have the right to do what it is that we have to do to represent our people, our families, everyone that it is that lives in our community that we care about. We've had these historic barriers that still exist today that we must overcome. Back in the day when there was Lewis L. Redding
Uh-huh.
that was young before he became a lawyer. Back in the day, before he was Lewis L. Redding that won Brown versus Board of Education, there was a rule that was established that anyone who took the bar in Delaware must have had worked for a lawyer for a year. So, because no white lawyers were allowing any black pre law or black students that wanted to be lawyers to work for them, they didn't hire these black people. There were no black attorneys.
Mm.
That was a barrier that existed. There's still barriers that exist today that keep people from doing what it is that they need to do. And those barriers have to be overcome. There's rules that are in place and there's little slates that are made. There's different things that we have to deal with. Sometimes it's just an email that we get back that says, oh, you didn't check this box or you didn't fill this out the right way, or
Mm-hmm.
you have to, there's certain things that we have to overcome. It's still it's still a fight every single day, and we got to do everything that it is that we can. And with that being four, I think that that's four. We're at five now. I think my numbers are off.
Our numbers got a little thrown off, but thank you. It's all
It's
good.
okay.
Because listen, the people got more than what they bargained for, and I'm telling you, it was absolutely phenomenal. So, D, I'm gonna ask you a question that's not written down that I've asked you before. Are you running again? Because you need to, yo. And I told you
I,
that before. You for the people. You are exemplary in what it means to represent a community. What's up with it?
I appreciate your encouragement so much. I mean, at the beginning of the call, I said that politics are very hard. They're very, not to say that they're not uh, something that we should be a part of. Not to say that it's not something that we should participate in,
Mm-hmm.
but for your health, for your mental health, your emotional health, your
Mm.
physical health, it's hard on people. Pray for all your representatives, especially the ones that make themselves available to you, the
Right.
ones that give you the access. My battery on my laptop saying that it's going to run out I'm not plugged in,
It's all
but
good. We getting ready to get out, no doubt.
well, I know we're almost done, but but that's a great example. That battery on that laptop, the
Yeah,
battery that we have in our hearts and our minds, the capacity that we have to do things on
right.
our own. There's
We
so
gave
much
it
that
all
we
we
can
got.
do on our own, but there's so much more that we can do together
Right.
as a group of concerned people, concerned citizens, family members. In your own family, in your own household, you have folks that are doing what it is that they want to do on their own. Maybe mom, she's focused on her computer, she's focused on doing what she's doing. Maybe dad, they're doing what it is that they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're doing what it is that everybody got to work together in order for you to achieve what it is that needs to be achieved, for it to
Right.
be easy. This morning, my devotion that I read was about Amish people. I
Mm.
grew up in Berks County. I'm familiar with Amish people because I grew up in Berks County, Pennsylvania. I was born in Chester,
Mm-hmm.
but in Berks County, outside of Reading, we had people from Lancaster and Amish town. And believe it or not, it was the Amish that came to Wilmington that moved Lewis L. Redding's house from where it was at the NBA building, MBNA, across from the old Walnut Street Y, over to 11th Street where it's at now. They
Mm-hmm.
picked up the whole house and moved it. But when they're building a barn, it could take months if you did it alone, if you just your family did it. But all the members of the Amish community come together
Mm-hmm.
and they build a barn in a single day.
Right.
It takes one day for them to build a barn. And that's food, that's shelter for the animals, that's a job, that's economic stability for years to come.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
That is longevity. That is what we need. We
Mm-hmm.
need everyone working together. We need success because we we can't do it alone.
We
And when
can't.
we do work together, we're going to achieve so much more and it's going to be faster.
Right. No doubt. And
And
you
you're
know,
going to have more fulfillment. You're going to feel good about it because everything that it is that you're doing is not just about you. It's not selfish.
right. It's the act of selflessness that's involved, you know, and standing together. But yo, D, I appreciate you, man. This has been a phenomenal talk. I'm gonna let you go ahead and family. Um, make sure you send me links to events to what you got coming up in the community. They'll be posted on my Facebook page and Instagram at Savvy Kira. Talk Heavy
Yep.
TV, literally just talk radio. Yo, I appreciate
Savvy.
you, man.
Savvy
Thank you for
care.
this. No doubt. No doubt.
So the April 23rd, Fight Hate with Gloves on 11th Street.
Mm-hmm.
April 23rd, Open Streets. I think it's going to be on Market Street. We're going to block off Market Street.
Okay.
So that's this month. And next week, April 8th, Aaron from Delaware Humanities told me to let you guys know at Widener University. Widener University, there's going to be a justice workshop that involves pretty much every organization that's dedicated to helping the folks that are justice involved.
Dope. Dope. Thank you, D. Yo, I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. Most importantly, thank you for the work that you're doing in your community, man. And keep up the good fight. All right, y'all. That concludes the episode of Talk Heavy TV. Got some upcoming events coming up. Make sure you check out open mics on Mind of the Storm podcast every Tuesday, or Facebook page every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get your funny on. Take a lunch break with the fuck every Wednesday, 12 noon. Definitely a dope show. Our Voice Matters every first and third Thursday on Mind of the Storm podcast as well. Also in Wilmington, Delaware, the Jeremy McDowell Police Reform Campaign. They got a lot of amazing things happening in the community of Wilmington with police reform. Celebrating Poetry Month with Slick Talk. April 21st is going down. Your girl will be performing, so make sure y'all come out and check me out. 517 Avenue of the States in Chester, PA. What else we got going on? April 22nd and 23rd, just like D had mentioned, he is also doing Freedom Fridays to talk about voter registration in the city of Wilmington. April 28th as well in the city of Wilmington, ACLU Delaware will be hosting an expungement workshop and job fair. So if you need a second chance, if you need your record cleared, make sure you look that up. Go check that out. And of course, join your girl right here every first and last Saturday on Literally Just Talk Radio. You'll be able to find this show on Mind of the Storm podcast. Pay on I can't talk no more, y'all. You'll be able to find this show on Mind of the Storm. Also at Savvy Kira Facebook and Instagram page, www.ljtrtawkheavy.com. Till next time, peace.